there's an element of just like it's beyond music. You know, they're so good that it's starting to, you know, deconstruct itself the other way around, which is amazing. You know,
they've been working on their craft for years.
And it never lingers long in one place. It's always just effortlessly moving from one thing to the other and expressing a whole different kind of emotional landscapes, but within a couple of minutes, you know.
I think he's able to play with rhythm and be very elastic about time because he knows exactly where it's supposed to go. So he can break the rules and then quickly come back to it. And that's rock and roll right there.
Brian's technique, with all due respect, is terrible. And I mean that in the fucking like, cause, he can do shit that nobody else can do.
Technical drummer who plays ghost notes, but all the ghosts are as loud as the living notes.
He's this really strong, and he's really built up his own like way of playing, and it's like he hits the drums so fucking hard, and it's beautiful. It sounds incredible.
Something like the John Holmes of the drumming world, you know what I mean? Just like, there's a few dudes out there. I remember his face when he first saw Zach Hill play. You could see like a breeze of fear blew over Chippendale, where he realized he was getting a run for his money with that dude.
I feel like it's really fast, but it's also so fast that it ends up being like more like a low frequency tone than like single notes. You end up with like.
It was good that I landed in drumming because I think I was cut out for it to some extent. Like there was something pulling me towards that. It was just like, all right, fine, I'll play the drums. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like sometimes I ask my friends, people like you and stuff, like, oh, you know, so what were you listening to when you were 14? Oh, well, by that time I'd, you know, really turned, you know, and gone to like Iron Maiden. Everybody I talked to was like, oh, that's when I got into metal, you know.
I've gone from hair metal into like heavier stuff, like Metallica, Megadeth. My best friend loved Anthrax. Like I loved Megadeth and he loved Anthrax, but I couldn't go for those like high squeaky vocals. So I wasn't that into Iron Maiden either. Like it was all, I wasn't into like this super singy stuff. I like the meaner vocal stuff.
For me, 14 was probably when I discovered mainstream rock music in the first place. I'd only ever listened to soft rock, you know, at the time, because that's what my mom had on her radio, you know, when she played the radio. Right here, like classical music or something, you know, my parents playing that at home. And I was taking piano lessons, whatever. And I joined the school band, went on snare drum. Super nervous. First performance in front of a crowd. And I'm playing. You know, this kind of thing. The snare drum part in an elementary school march. I'd learned how to read, you know, music notation. I knew what a repeat was, and this first ending, second ending, go back to the sign, and you go to this part. And I realized, I'm looking at the wrong page. This is a different march. I'm reading the wrong page and it doesn't make any difference. It sounds exactly the same because all the marches were, you know, I'm in 3rd grade or whatever. And of course, it hadn't dawned on me until the final concert. I'm like, this is it. The snare drum is not the most interesting part, let's say. I was given the illusory impression that music mattered and that it might be something worth wasting your time doing, you know? As I started to grow up, particularly when I went to college, you know, your eyes get open to the reality of evil and misfortune in the world, and you start to wonder, well, okay, so I'm a rock drummer? What's the point there? You know, how's that gonna help? It wasn't disillusionment like, hey, okay, now where's my career? You know, where's all the money? It was more like, well, okay, I'm playing the drums like as loud as I can, and still there's famine in the world. You know, college was an incredible chance to question every assumption you'd ever been given by, you know, school, your family, Hollywood, you know, TV, whatever it is.
It's a very interesting mix of you know, musicians. You know, Greg is classically trained. You know, he's a serious musician.
And I mentioned to him that I couldn't figure out the chords to Whither the Invisible Birds, because it's really strange chords. And so he showed up the next day and he'd written it all out on staff paper for me, like chords and melody and everything, just like a composer would write to give to the violinist or something, you know. I was moved, you know, and I know exactly where it is at home. I've got it in my top drawer with my other keepsakes, you know.
I went to Oberlin Conservatory in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, rural Ohio. It was like the Garden of Eden. I mean, it was not about you come in and you learn to write like Mozart and then you learn to write like Beethoven and Schoenberg, whatever. Nothing like that. You're just asking yourself, why in the world do we have composers? What on earth could be their... I mean, it's one thing when you're playing in a rock band, you can at least, you know, look at TV and see, oh, there's a rock band. Everybody seemed to like them. But I mean, a classical composer, it's like a complete existential crisis, you know, from day one. It's like, why?
We have a lot of musical references that get us, you know, through things. And sometimes I think we sound like things, you know. But with Lightning Bolt, it's almost like there's just no... You're like, what do they sound like? Like you're chopping down a tree and the chainsaw has gone into overdrive and then it falls into, you know, the machine plant, and, you know, it's like, it's just, you know, there's not a musical reference to describe them.
The first time that I heard Lightning Bolt, actually, that I most loved about them was that finally I felt that I was hearing a band that wasn't appropriating an older style. It sounded like it was invented from absolute scratch. They just had nothing, you know? And it's like they were gonna build it up like caveman style from you know, a stone and two twigs or something, you know?
And Brian, even as a drummer, I mean, I can't tell by looking at him, by watching him, if he has ever listened to a real drummer or if he just discovered the way that he plays drums on his own.
I had no drumming idols or anything. I had no aspirations. And continued to, at least as a drummer, and continued to have no musical aspirations for years. Like, I feel like even when Lightning Bolt started, like, our aspiration was to, and funny enough, still remains a little bit the same. It's just like, the aspiration is to just have a good practice that night. like 80% willpower and 20% technical skill or something. Like, I can do all kinds of things if I can get myself involved with it, but I can't just sit down and like do something. It's not just me playing drums, it's like me applying something to the drums. Like, as a drum player, I don't know, I'm okay, but like, as an artist, like, communicating through the drums, I'm good at it. So I feel successful at that, but I don't necessarily feel successful as like a technical drummer. I've always drawn comics, I've always drawn drawings. So I always sort of knew I wanted to go to art school. I wasn't as good at like stretching myself as far as you need to stretch yourself as a student. Like, you need to kind of take 4 or 5 classes a semester, and I could do like 3 and do okay in them. But if I did 4, like, something would fall apart. I just couldn't do it. I don't know why. And it's kind of the same in my life now. Like, if I've got like a couple things to do, I'm okay. But if you give me one more thing to do, I won't do any of it. And I just like break down and I get upset. Like, I have a tolerance to be able to handle a few tasks. But I mean, I have friends that just do art, and they're just like, they've really developed as artists. So I get jealous because I'm just trying to do a few different things. You're not going to make an Apocalypse Now if you're also playing Bon Jovi or whatever.
Watching Greg and you're amazed, but when you play with him, that's a different trip. And you have to like stay with him when he's doing those crazy fills and, doing these like, not rushing, but it's almost like he's always pushing the beat ahead.
I'm always searching for how can I play the drums in a way that doesn't cover up the vocals. That's been a constant challenge since the day that Satomi joined. And she often tells me that I'm too loud, and it confuses her. She can't follow it. Nobody can follow it, she said. And so how can I do this kind of expression that I feel like is inside me, and that I feel this kind of intense passion about the music we're playing? How can I do it in a way that also allows her to feel like she's able to do the same thing?
The fills are the beat, It's some like right. Right, that's the traditional way. Right. His is like it's just always, it's crazy,
There's kind of maybe a seriousness or a self-consciousness about a lot of indie rock, and Deerhoof doesn't seem to be that self-conscious. They just seem to be about making a joyous noise.
Without us necessarily meaning to, our music was always asking the question, what is the point of doing music? So we were always asking ourselves that question while we were writing new songs, while we were playing, in practice, on stage, whatever. Every chance to do something new is another chance to question why are you doing it, And so I just think that the style that I ended up playing on the drums, or that Deerhoof plays in the band or whatever, it has that questioning contained in it. It's almost 20 years later after this band started, and I don't feel any closer to having the answer to that question than I did then.
But playing drums is, it's like a workout that has a byproduct of making sound. So it's just a physicality to it that I don't. I mean, you can kind of try to get it in a guitar if you like run around or something. As the tour goes on, I just get fitter and fitter and like more like sort of crazy and sharper or something.
Some people are just cut to do their art. You know what I then everything else is like superfluous. Like it doesn't matter, you know, just like extra. So like drugs doesn't have to come into play.
Yeah.
Too bad for you guys, but
Just being clear and healthy and stuff I think that stuff helps with longevity. I think you can be like pretty wasted and fucked up and be like pretty ferocious for a bunch of years. But if you want to do it, you know, Lightning Bolt will be 20 years next year. So I think if you want to do it for 20 years, you know, it might pay to try to like stay healthy and stuff.
It's like every tour, I feel like we get a little closer to the target, you know? And this last one I felt like was just the best ever, you know? And I really felt good about every song in our set list. I felt was really strong, and I could see that the audience was responding to every song, you know? And
I don't know, it leaves you like so vacant and empty sometimes afterwards because you're like depleted of your power. And then you're just like this useless shell husk of a human dangling you around. So it's just like, I don't know, there's a weird price for this kind of stuff. And it's all super abstract because I'm just successful and I'm lucky. Like I just sit around and do weird shit all the time and live that way. And there's tons of people that would like to do that but can't.
I often feel like the most recent one is the crowning glory, and that not even that, it's more like it's just as close as we've ever gotten to a crowning glory, you know? It's still not that good. I mean, we're still pretty crappy, but it's like I feel that it's starting to develop into a sound that's working, and it's starting to turn into an idea for a band that could actually work, you know? Makes me really excited, you know?